So in full disclosure, I got introduced to this guy through another fellow podcaster, Monica Perez, host of the Propaganda Report. Started following him, of course. Realized we had a lot in common as far as politics. He's probably more of a, I don't want to call him a name. So he's down here at the bottom of the screen. I'm not going to call him a name. I know this. I've become more of a libertarian as I've gotten older, a conservative. There are people out there that just think we just ought to cut some fences down and wander a little bit and just all kind of get in the same fields. And I have a feeling that Monica Perez is one of those people. What's up, JJ Boogie?
What's up, Clint? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I was going to introduce this as my next guest and I are going to talk all politics, the woke culture, and how to solve problems and what you just click out like.
Oh, that's easy stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, we did meet kind of through Monica, man. Do you still check in on her podcast?
Oh yeah. I listen to her podcast almost every day. I'll catch up on it if I miss a day, and then we text, every few weeks and catch up on stuff. And yeah,
wouldn't you agree? She is. I don't know. What would you call her? She says she's like a hardcore libertarian, but she's I think that's
anarchist.
I was going to call it that, but I hate labels. But yeah, anarchist.
Yeah, but not the. There's two definitions. You got the one that just means no rulers and like voluntary society, and then the other one that most people are aware of that's glorified is just chaos and mayhem, and it's not that. The other, just no rulers, no government necessary.
Yeah, me and Monica go back and forth because I'm like, you're gonna have a government. It's inevitable when you put a society together. And she was like, look, if the grocery store and the guy that owns the house want a road and it's mutually beneficial, they will build the road. We don't. And I'm like, I get it, I understand. So those are fun conversations. I think her podcast has taken off since she left the radio too. I think it's killing it, man.
I don't know what the numbers look like now. I remember, I guess it was the beginning of 2020 when she was, it was still like, I don't know if this is going to keep going or not. We're going to give it some more time and try to make some improvements here and there. And, but I'm glad they're still around. I love them both. Brad and Monica, both awesome.
Yeah, I'll say this, and then we'll get into the kind of fun conversation. But Binkley and her are the two hardest working podcasters. They put more content out than any podcaster I know.
Yeah.
They put tons out.
Yep.
Hey, just, people may know you once they see the band and what you've done, but they may not know you. If you would just take a second, tell us how you got into Arrested Development, and then talk to us a little bit. And I'm going to try to say the word correctly because my kids make fun of my Southern accent. Tell me more about the tour and stuff coming up, because I call it tour, and my daughter's like, Dad, you sound
tour. Yeah, I like tour. See, that's like how my in-laws, that my wife's family talks from Tennessee.
That's us, man. I say tour and oil.
Yeah. I met Speech, the main founder of the group Arrested Development. He produced and wrote all the hits and everything. I met him in '98 at this church I started going to. It was a special ministry for artists and entertainers, which was really cool because I didn't grow up with anything like that. And so we met there, and then I would play with the church band, and the next thing you know, I'm like, jamming with him and teaching his kids drum and guitar lessons, and he started having me do a couple live shows for his stuff. At this time, Arrested Development had been broken up. So but his solo career had blew up in Asia, and he needed a guitar player to go on the road when Arrested Development got back together in 2000. I co-wrote a song on their reunion album called "Heroes of the Harvest." And this was in 2000, yeah. And then and then over the next few years, I do studio work here and there. And then one day he was like, "Hey, I need a guitarist to go on the road with me. Can you do it?" And I just happened to be at the right place at the right time and be the right person. And I checked my schedule, and lo and behold, I didn't have any tours lined up.
No worldwide tours on your end.
Yeah. That's my first and only like world touring group I've ever been in. I did go overseas in the 90s one time with a blues band I was working with, a local blues band, and we played a major blues festival. The band was called Mudcat Blues Band out of Atlanta. And I was playing drums back then. We went to Lugano, Switzerland, and we backed up several elderly blues artists. Beverly Guitar Watkins, who used to play with Piano Red in the 60s. He was this albino piano player that played in downtown Atlanta in the 60s and underground Atlanta back when it was like hardcore nightclubs, you go down there and party. My parents used to go down there in the 70s and go see bands and party, in the early 70s, but so she played with them. We backed her up. We did that. And that was like, that was my first time traveling overseas, which was, I thought I could just die and go to heaven right there. I'm like, I did it, and then Arrested Development. Now I'm like, I'm doing it, and bigger and crazier and more, and like, wow, so. Do
you ever walk on stage, man, and get that same feeling again? Like, I cannot believe I am doing this in front of these people. I get paid to do this. Does that ever just hit you, and how grateful it is, how grateful you are?
Oh yeah, every show, especially now that our industry's been taken away, and being able to do the little shows that we've been doing, that it's reinvigorated that initial first feeling why I did it to begin with, just for the pure joy and love of music, making music with your peers, and then having an audience have a great time,
Yeah, I think all of us went through a little stage of this last 2 years. How we just took things for granted. We took ball games for granted, churches for granted, a family, the family get together. I got to go have lunch with that person again. I think now we're all like, oh, those were the real moments we should have been appreciating all along.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you got coming up? Y'all got, I know in April or sometime next year, y'all going on a big tour. Stuff too. I'm just going to quit trying to pretend I'm something I'm not. So just forgive me now.
We're driving our tour bus. New Year's Eve we're playing in Asheville at the Salvage Station in Asheville. I always love going to Asheville. Always had a great time gigging there, and great people, cool venues, and great restaurants, and and all that. And then January we're doing the Capitol Jazz Cruise, January 13th. A lot of jazz artists. It's kind of weird because we're a little out of our element there, but in a sense, because we're a hip hop group, we're not. I mean, we'll have jazz elements and blues elements and funk and rock. We mix everything up, but it's all under the umbrella of hip hop, Yeah. And so, but man, for years we used to play folk festivals up in Canada, all the major cities, all these folk festivals, and we're up there with like Del McCurry and Alison Krauss and Emmylou Harris, Marty Stewart, and we're playing with, I'm like, but we're a hip hop band. But it was something about Arrested Development. We just were able to get our feet in the door. Like, we've done rock festivals, we've done reggae festivals,
But don't you think that's a vibe? I mean, there's a certain energy, and I know vibe is a weird word because you can't really define it, but there's certain artists, and we all have people in our lives too that just have a vibe about them that attracts an eclectic group of friends. And we're like, there's just something about that guy or girl that everybody likes being around. That the band sounds something like that.
Yeah. And then, all the promoters we work with, I mean, they always say how easy we are to work with, because we're no drama, and and then they tell us stories of things that happen, and demands and attitudes of other artists. You're like, dang, okay.
I got a buddy here in Chattanooga. We used to have a big festival here for a long time called Riverbend.
Yeah.
Well, my buddy Dixie Fuller played with the group Alabama, and he was their road guy. Plus, he played guitar with them, but he also helped get most of those a big number of those bands into Riverbend for the last 20-something years. So Dixie's tied into the music industry really well. He also owns the oldest restaurant in Tennessee, 113 years old. So anyway,
wow,
it's good stuff. But anyway, so I was talking to him one time. I've had him on the podcast. I'm like, dude, is it true that some bands have these big lists, that rider sheet of when they get there? And he's like, you would not believe it. And so I'm not going to remember the band, but I could go find it. But there was this band that was going to be in town for 3 days.
Yeah.
And they asked for 140 condoms. He's like, absolutely not. I'm not going to do that one. The red jelly beans I can do. Absolutely. We can get a car that's this big, but I'm not doing that. And he goes, I actually just remember the next time they came in town, the guy reached out to me because they got him to come in for something else. And he goes, hey, we've adjusted our rider for the Chattanooga market. And he goes, yeah, thank you. I'm not going to, how do I justify that to everybody?
75 condoms instead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll make do. Make do. So when does the big one start, man? When does the big, is it worldwide or is it United States? What are you doing?
No, it's a European tour.
Okay.
And it starts in April. We were supposed to do it this year, but when the Delta variant went up, and we had venues sold out throughout Europe, from Czech Republic, Germany, France, Spain, UK, gosh, where else? We're going so many places. Belgium, all of those places. We had venues sold out, and then the governments over there would basically tell the venue owners that we cannot, they can't do full capacity. And then well, how do you tell who to give the tickets back to? And then it got to the point where, like with us, we're traveling with 8 people. If one of us gets test positive, we're gonna have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Well, that's 14 shows, 13, 14 shows if we had a day off. But most of those tours, it's night after night after night. It's city after city.
You get tired on that? Have you ever done that before? Does it just wear you down, or how do you keep your energy with that, man?
That's a good question. After a while, you the crowd, and it's just part of the job. Like, you just kind of, got to get used to it, and you get, it's an adventure that you have to commit to, because, you can't just wake up at two, when we're gigging late at night, and you get up and and you can't go to Waffle House and get a breakfast. Nobody's serving breakfast. They don't have, it's not breakfast places. Like, once breakfast is done, it's done, and a
lot of coffee and Red Bull, I guess.
Yeah, lots of coffee and truck stop food and all that. But no, I mean, to be fair, the promoters, they take care of us with catering and and all that, or they'll stuff like that. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. So that it got rescheduled from this year to next year. And the cool thing about it, in a sense, even though I was really, really pissed off that it got canceled, because I needed the money. I need the money to take care of my family, and but the good thing is, the original tour was about 30 dates, and now that we've rescheduled it, we've added about 11 more shows, and there might come in. So it's going to be a longer tour. We're going to be gone for 2 months probably, which that'll be the longest I've ever been away from my family. A month is the longest I've ever gone, from being away from them. So 2 months is going to be new, and that's going to be rough, because I've been homeschooling the past more than 2 years, but now that the kids are older, it's just it's going to be harder, I think, on them. It'll be harder on me too, but thank God, technology, we could talk face to face, and we do that every day when I'm on the road. Does
Omicron got you worried at all about the dates, or do you think this will come and go, kind of flare up and flare out, or is that something y'all just don't talk about? Is that the superstition jinx thing?
Yeah. I haven't talked to my manager yet on what his pulse is. I see a lot of my peers that have tours lined up over there as well. So I haven't heard any chatter of tours being canceled like they were for this year. Yeah. But I'm not, to me, all the Omicron stuff or Omicron, whatever it is just hype. It's just all hype. And
I think it's going to flare up. I think just between me and you.
Well, it's winter time, man.
Yeah. Everybody's going inside. We'll have a moment of Monica Perez podcast here. I think it's a flare up. I think it's for headlines for the next couple of weeks to distract for other stuff. And I'm hoping, because I've lost some friends to COVID, I believe COVID's real. So I hope that, and think probably by the mid-January, it'll be kind of wrapped up. That's what I think. Unless they find a new variant, it might be time to roll out the new variant. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, we will always have variants.
Yes, we will.
How much they can milk out of them that's the question.
And when you say milk, I think we're talking about milk control, because that's what they're really after. They want to make sure that Clint and JJ Boogie do as they're told. Hey, I saw something terrifying the other day, and you might have seen it. Did you see the company that's actually finally they've developed the little bitty tiny chip that will be your passport that can read if you've had your vaccination? I said that's a hard no for the boy in Tennessee.
Yeah,
I
haven't seen that yet.
Oh, of course, I do podcasts 5 or 6 a week, and it came up in one of my constitutional podcasts, and I'm like, yeah, they better bring some help to put one of those in me, because it's not going to be. That's going to be a struggle.
I was contemplating quitting my job over the vax because I didn't want it. I didn't need it. I didn't want it. But then I'm like, well, if I don't get it, then there goes everything I've worked for the past, 40 years.
The problem they're going to run into is, I think, and they're starting to see it right this minute. If everybody, I think, is just because we're good people, are going to do what they can to keep themselves and their family safe. That part you don't have to convince us to do, right? At some point, though, if the definition of what fully vaxxed to get me on a plane or to go eat at a restaurant, if you're going to keep changing it and adding that I've got to go do one more thing, eventually we're all going to kind of go, no, we did that, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah. But many of us were saying that this is exactly what they're going to do.
Absolutely.
And we were vilified and screamed at and shouted down on social media for being crazy, kooky conspiracy theorists. And now all that stuff we were shouted at, they're holding up and praising him like it's the best thing since sliced bread. So
yeah. Well, and the social media will just pull you straight down if you say too much. That's just the way it goes. Hey, you said something cool. You wrote wrote a song that you co-wrote that's on the album. Do you still write songs? Do you write a bunch of songs?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Is that where your passion is?
I'm not. My songwriting is in pieces per se, in a sense that I don't sit down like with acoustic and write all the chords and write all lyrics and stuff. I'm not a lyricist. My songwriting is more music based around vocalists or with vocalists in mind. I do come up with lyrical ideas and stuff, but I'm not, like Speech or my wife, who can sit down and just write a song from beginning to end, all the lyrics and background, parts.
Yeah.
But I'm like that team player person that I bounce ideas. I have a lot of great initial ideas and I share those, and then that sparks ideas, and then it just builds and builds and builds. So my iPhone, I got my voice memo. I got, probably almost 1,500 little 15, 20, 30-second clips of me either singing a musical idea into it, a drum beat, or with my guitar, mainly like guitar licks. Like, I just wrote this riff. I want to record it and document it because, and now Speech, my boss, he's the one that taught me to, encouraged me to do this, because I'd be in bed at night and music would be playing in my head. Something original that's never been written. It's just a whole orchestra of music, melody. And then I'd be like, oh, that's amazing. I need to go to the guitar and figure out what that is, or the piano, and then make sure I, remember it. But but you're in bed, so you're like, I'll do it tomorrow. So you go to sleep. Well, when you wake up, that music is gone. You cannot remember what was going on. So Speech is like, because I told him, I told him what happened. He goes, you honor what God gives you in the moment. So now if I'm laying in bed at night idea comes, I'll get out of bed, no matter how tired I am. I'll go in the little bathroom closet and I'll, or whatever the idea is. Or if I wake myself up, I'll go downstairs on the piano or find the notes on the piano and I'll play and then I'll record at least the basic melody and maybe the beat idea, so.
Do you ever send that to him and go, hey, what do you, or do you hear somebody come to you with the lyrics or something, and you match it with something that you've done? You're like, oh, do you ever do the matching game with some of that?
I haven't done that per se. Usually I'm a spontaneous kind of writer, in a sense where if someone has something, it'll inspire something in the moment. and then I'll go with that based on how I feel that day, and then I'll get the basic idea, and then I'll live with it, and then add to it, and then maybe take it away, and then sometimes you realize maybe that wasn't the best, and then you scrap it and you start over, and then you're like, oh, that's great, or you nail it to begin with. Sorry, or sometimes you just the initial idea was it, and you just needed to fine tune it.
Yeah, I work with a lot of business owners and sales folks, and I tell them all the time the power of a notebook and writing stuff down. So like when you get up and you go, like, I love that, man. By the way, I'm gonna steal that. Honor got what God gave you. You can tell Speech, I'm gonna steal that, and I'll give him credit. I'll give him credit. The power of writing it down and journaling it is just amazing.
Yeah,
it's just getting it out of your head onto paper. It's almost like gives your brain just some sort of release.
Yeah. It's funny because I see signs of that throughout history, I'm sure throughout history, but like just one reference is Hendrix. There's famous photos of lyrics he wrote down on a hotel napkin that was in his hotel room, like for Purple Haze, or I can't remember the song, but it's his handwriting. He's like, he had an idea. He wrote it down real quick. He's a busy guy, man. He was doing all these shows and recordings and photo shoots, and and he's so you have to write that stuff down so you can remember. But yeah, even Hendrix wrote that stuff down. Well, even like One Love, the other rapper in the group, we'll be on a flight going to London Heathrow, and he'll have his headphones on, listening to a track a producer sent him. And he's got his notepad out, and he's rhyming in his head. Speech will do it too, but Speech will use his iPhone and just write it down digitally. Where One Love's old school. He'll write it down with a pen, and they write all this stuff down, man. They keep the cadence. They rehearse it. They'll rehearse it on the flights. Yeah. And build it. Build those lyrics. Yeah.
I was listening. I was kind of following one of the songs y'all put out. Y'all got one of my favorite Hello from the 1980s rappers on there, Big Daddy Kane. Yeah. So, I remember when I first heard him, it was Go to Work. It was the old rap songs he had. And so how was working with him, dude? Because when I saw that, I'm like, there's a couple, Big Daddy Kane, Cool Mo D, LL Cool J back in those days. So how was working with him in that?
Well, actually, unfortunately, I didn't get to be with him in the studio. He recorded his tracks up in Brooklyn, I believe. And then, but Speech flew him down to do the video shoot, but it wasn't on the day that we were doing our part of the video shoot.
Gotcha.
And then also, it's kind of funny because the director was telling Speech that when he picked him up at the airport, Big Daddy Kane, he was like, hey, because the original video is like on a farm with chickens for people every day and riding in the back of a pickup truck through the country. Yeah. And Big Daddy Kane's like, he ain't gonna bring me to a fucking farm, is he? And I'm sorry, I don't know if I could.
Oh yeah, you're good.
Okay,
you're all right, man.
And so he started laughing. He's like, no, we're going to a studio. So all their stuff was done inside in a studio. All the stuff that we shot was literally we're stepping over cow patties. We're sitting in the dirt. We're around goats and chickens and wild cats and dogs. And it was every animal's dirty. So we did all the dirty work where, Big Daddy Kane was in the nice cush, studio. That's right.
Yeah.
But no, I'm honored to be on the track with him. He crushed it. It was a cool, unique marriage of styles. And it was cool too, because I saw him in 88, 89 at the Omni in Atlanta for the Too Hype Jam. He was one of the headline acts with MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, Digital Underground, Third Bass.
Oh man, Third Bass, the stink face, man, the gas face. That's what.
Yeah, and Two Live Crew was on the bill as well.
Okay,
but it was a crazy show, and I think I was about one of three white people in the whole Omni that night. Yeah. It was awesome. And they all those acts tore it up because they were young and hungry, and they all came out and showed out. So growing up watching him on MTV and then
back when MTV played videos and music.
Yeah. But Yeah, so that was cool, and we've been doing a lot of guest things like that with the new record for the F and Love. Kango from UTFO.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember him. They did the song Roxanne Roxanne back in the 80s.
Okay. I know the song, but I don't know.
That rapper he passed away just a few days ago, and I just saw him like just a few years ago up in at BB King's in New York City. We played up there, and he came out and hung out with us.
Oh, that's very.
And he was influenced. He influenced like Snoop. You know how Snoop puts all the Z's on all his rhymes and stuff. Yeah. That came from Kango or way earlier when Snoop was a little kid. He did that stuff first. So if you listen to the original Roxanne Roxanne by UTFO, Kango, the rapper, he does all that stuff like, beforehand. It's I grew up with that. That was like, yeah.
Y'all need to go play back. I used to go to BB King's after I got my divorce. About once every 2 or 3 months, I would just go get a hotel across from BB King's in Nashville.
Yeah,
just sit in the very back, and I told the waiter, I did it maybe 5 or 6 times. Right, I'd go tell the waiter, look, I'm by myself. I'm here for the evening. I'm gonna tip you really, really good, but I'm not getting up from this table. You're not gonna get turnover. So, are you okay with that? They'd be like, yeah, and I would tip them really good. So,
yeah.
But man, I would go stay 4 and 5 hours, man, or long, just get a good meal, couple drinks. And they would have these, you know how those places are, man. Sometimes they got people that will get on stage, people that weren't expected. It was some of the best stuff in my life. I miss going up there, dude.
Yeah. Years ago, I had this drum student who was, he took drum lessons from me and also drum lessons from, dang it. What's that country? Brad Paisley's drummer. I forget his name. Ben Caesar, I think his name is. Anyway, so he would go to Nashville and take lessons from Ben in Nashville, and then he took drum lessons from me here. And at the time, he was about 12. And then I remember one time I was at a gig setting up, and his mother sent me this recorded video of him. His name's Tommy, and he was sitting in with the blues band at BB King's in Nashville because he while they were on their break, he walked over to the drummer and was like, "Hey, I'm a drummer too." And the guy was like, "Hey, you want to come sit in?" And Tommy's like, "Yeah," So sure enough, he played the beat I showed him, and he was jamming with the blues band. I was like, "What?" I'm at my gig. I'm like, one of my students is jamming with the band.
That's awesome.
It was crazy. It was so
cool. Do you ever? I went down this rabbit hole a few months ago, and then give me about another. I said 30. If you can give me about another 5 or 10 minutes, man, maybe 5 minutes. I won't keep you too much longer. But I went down this rabbit hole starting about 6 months ago on YouTube at night when I can't sleep. So I go on YouTube. It's called reaction videos. You watch people who watch things for the first time.
Yeah.
I went down this rabbit hole of young kids, white kids, black kids, kids of all ages watching AC/DC or Big Daddy Kane or Muddy Waters or the Beastie Boys. And man, so I get stuck into that sometimes. And it makes me smile because when you watch those videos, it lets you know that we as human beings have a lot more in common than what we can see with our eyes.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Very cool, man.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, I love watching them. Do you binge watch? I mean, do you binge listen to podcasts or music? Because I'm the kind of guy that if I hear a song that I remember or I like, I'll listen to it 1,000 times and then I get tired of it.
Yeah, I've been binging really hard the past several weeks on Mother's Finest, the band Mother's Finest.
Yeah.
And I've been went down the rabbit hole. I went all the way back to their first record, which I didn't even know existed until literally a few weeks ago. It's from 1972, and it looks like a Black Sabbath album cover. Like the album cover is like, what? That doesn't seem like Mother's Finest. And then you listen to it and you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. They were funk, they were metal, they were rock, they were soul, all combined, and jazz. I mean, they combined all that stuff in 72. You could still hear influences of the late 60s, vocally here and there. And then you hear this forward thinking progressive sound that's like early metal and then fun, like Chili Pepper. They were doing stuff the Chili Peppers They were doing that stuff in 72, which means really they recorded, this album came out in 72, which means they were actually doing it in 70 and 71 when they were jamming in the garage and playing locally.
Figuring it out.
They were doing that. And it's mind-blowing. So Mother's Finest first album from 72, the entire top to bottom, the entire album is absolutely insane.
I'm gonna have to go listen to it, man.
And then Another Mother for You is the one with Baby Love on it, which is their biggest, hit. That, and Mickey's Monkey, Piece of the Rock, all the stuff they played on, like in Atlanta, they had Z93 and 96 Rock with the rock stations growing up here, and they used to play them all over that, and so they're just, the way they groove is, to me, I actually turned them on. There's a band out of Nashville called the New Respects. It's a young all black rock band, and they all play their own instruments. Well, they blend rock and funk, and pop and folk. So it reminds me of like Mother's Finest, except they're not as edgy as Mother's Finest was, but they're still fun and creative, and amazing. And so
what's their name again, real quick? What's their name? The
New Respects.
Okay. All right.
Killer band. Your kids might like them. My kids like them. I love them. I just did a cruise with them too, and they were super cool and amazing live. And Zandy, their guitar player, is just an awesome guitar player. I texted her the Mother's Finest record. I'm like, listen to this, because I would love to see them like carry on that legacy, and maybe do, cover one of their songs, because I think, a remake, how, some bands, they remake something that came out and it's a new hit again,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I could see that happening, and I'd love to see that for Mother's Finest, because I think Mother's Finest should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, man.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up something we talked about off air, the album cover, right? You were talking about how Mother's Finest, the album cover looked like a Black Sabbath, and you said one of your first jobs was at Turtles, the album store, man. And
record store, yeah.
Yeah, and I was saying that I used to I'll be 54 next month, so I used to go into record stores and discover bands a lot of times, or albums, simply because they had cool cover art. Like, oh my, because that used to be a big deal. And I don't know if kids know that nobody has albums really. Now my daughter bought a record player last
year. Yeah, I got one right here.
And I about 8 classic albums that she's listened to. Stevie Wonder, one of his first ones, Creedence Clearwater. Anyway, so we did that. But the album part of it, I was asking you, it used to be a pretty clear thing for me to figure out how bands made money, right? Uh-huh. You go and get recorded, you sell concert tickets, and then you sell albums. Pretty easy, linear business thing. Now, I don't know how do you guys and girls make money if people aren't really buying albums?
We don't make money.
Good. Okay. Next question.
Next question. Well, you make it from touring, merchandise, and touring, live shows. That's how we've survived.
Yeah.
We don't make any money off our records right now. It's sad, the industry is in shambles. So that's why it was even more devastating when, states all over the world implemented lockdowns and stuff. It, completely devastated and destroyed all our lives too, so, and there was people that are deemed essential workers who, their jobs were just to collect checks or, whatever.
I think that's kind of sad. I think one of the things that, and I'm guilty of this, we are now a society of, I expect the content for free. You know what I'm saying? We're so used to finding stuff on YouTube and easy to find. Like, I hate to say it, but if I've got a news source that's going to make me pay 99 cents a month to download, like, I'm not paying for that. And I keep thinking, well, that newspaper used to make money off selling subscriptions. Now they've lost that too. So basically that's my attitude of, you should work for free and I should get it for free. And that's not really a fair idea, I don't think.
Well, that's kind of like what democracy is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you get your party in, they get to extract the money from all us taxpayers and then give out free stuff when it wasn't free. You just, that mentality, man, I think that's a product of democracy.
Well, I think that's what it is too. In bigger picture, we call stuff free. It's almost like being a kid, right? When mom and dad were buying dinner, it cost me nothing, so I'm not where I'll order as much food as I want.
Yeah.
And so it's almost that mindset. If I do think that someone should pay off my college loans, and why should anybody else care? It's just money coming from the government, and what we don't understand,
Right.
that's your neighbor, by the way.
Yeah. Well, my kids, when they were like, "Hey, can we go to McDonald's?" I'm like, "Let me check my bank account."
Oh, absolutely. Let me check your bank account.
Yeah, they know. They know. They're like, there's a limit to how much we can spend.
Yeah, and they don't get to vote you out either. You're a dictator, man. So goes you, so goes the state, man.
I am the governor.
That's right. You're the science. You're the science. That's what you are. Hey, let's do some Christmas questions, and then I'll let you go if you're comfortable with that.
Okay.
Right? All right. A favorite. First of all, let's get the most important one out of the way. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I guess that depends on who you are. I don't watch it. I don't watch it on Christmas. Don't get me wrong. I've seen it many, many times and I love it, but it's never been a tradition for me to watch it or my family to watch it on Christmas. I'm like, to me, that's one of those movies you can watch anytime and it's just fun. And that's always it's been for me. So,
but you know, the debate is it considered a Christmas movie?
It is now. I mean, to me, I would say yes, even though I'm not a part of that, making it that. I want to go on record. You are way more careful about pigeonholing yourself into the Die Hard category, one side or the other. The government, you've got no problem pissing the government off. Yeah.
Die Hard listeners, watchers, you're like, look, I don't mean to piss them off, man.
Yeah. Screw the FBI, and the CIA, but Die Hard fans, I respect you guys. I love you. I'm with you.
Yeah. We need those concert tickets. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Hey, so do you have a favorite Christmas movie that you and the family like to watch, or you like to watch?
We're a little divided. I like Christmas Story. My daughter, who's 8, likes The Grinch, the one with Jim Carrey, and my son loves Nightmare Before Christmas, which is he likes the freaky Tim Burton scary stuff. Yeah. He loves stuff like that, creepy stuff like that. Yeah. And then I think once a year we all love to watch Home Alone.
Oh yeah.
Even when the kids want to watch it 2 or 3 times, I'm like, I'm out. No, once is enough.
Yeah, when my kids were little, we started watching The Polar Express, which I thought was a weird movie at first. But now that my kids are older, I'm like, I love The Polar Express and Christmas Vacation and Elf. Those are our 3 go-to movies.
Oh, we did show them Elf for the first time last week. Yeah.
How did they love it?
Yeah, they thought it was funny. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies ever, period.
Yeah. Right on.
How about Christmas songs? You're a music guy, man. Do you have a favorite Christmas song? And please don't say Mariah Carey, but continue on.
Definitely not Mariah Carey. My favorite is the Nat King Cole Christmas album. So Christmas, Nat King Cole, because he's just got the smoothest voice in the world. It was recorded in the 40s, and the way that they recorded orchestras back then and vocalists was just amazing. It was usually like one microphone in a room with a bunch of world-class musicians and singers, and but the Nat King Cole Christmas album was the very first album my parents bought as a married couple. And after they got married, they bought a turntable and a stereo, some speakers, and a vinyl record, and it was Nat King Cole Christmas. So I was every Christmas. That was the album. That's probably why I love it. I know some people that could be the reason why they hate it.
Yeah. Do you listen to it now all the time during Christmas?
Yeah. I threw that was the first one I threw on. And then I love Vince Guaraldi's, Charlie Brown Christmas, all that stuff with this piano playing. That's just classic, man. I love that.
Isn't that weird? My favorite. Some of those old movies that we grew up watching, like Rudolph and Charlie Brown, the music reminds us of the movies. There's that crossover. Now it's, I'm saying it wasn't just a song or a movie, but there's the soundtracks.
Yeah.
It brings back both memories. I think that's pretty cool. Do you have a favorite Christmas dessert or food?
Well, It's not, well, it's Christmas to me in a sense because I normally have it on Christmas, but I'll have it on other holidays. But my mom, my mom's Sicilian, and she go every holiday she goes to the Italian bakery, and she gets sfogliatelle, which is this like a seashell looking Italian pastry. Well, you can't Google it because the spelling is impossible. It's this Italian SFORT, and then it's Giglio, looking weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my personal favorite. So that's kind of a weird thing that probably most people had never heard of. But that's it for me. My wife's gonna make this amazing pound cake for Christmas, and she'll knock it out of the park. She always does with desserts. So.
All right, my last question is: do you have a gift from Christmas that you remember as a kid, looking back on? Because I got a couple, but do you have a gift or a Christmas you remember that stands out?
Oh, well, shoot, yeah. I mean, when I was, I guess, my 8th Christmas, and I got my first drum set. That's the biggest. I mean, it was a toy drum set. Don't get me wrong; it wasn't something you could go out and gig with. But I got a little picture of me, on this little toy kit in the 70s, in Doraville, Georgia. My dad didn't know how to set it up. It's all pieces everywhere. But I used to bang the crap out of that kit. And then I would play Michael Jackson or Prince or even Def Leppard albums in my bedroom. And I would pretend to be the drummer. Or if I had a friend over, he'd be the drummer. And I'd grab my mom's tennis racket and I would be Prince.
Guitarist.
Yeah, the guitarist. And we would just, I'd pretend to solo, and we were pretending to be on stage, and that's what I did as a little kid in my room all the time.
Yeah, see, and I'm not musical like that. I love music, but I could have been the other friend. I could have been the fan. I could have been out front with I could have been cheering you guys on. That was the only role. I bought my daughter a drum set when she was about 9.
Oh, that's right. I think you told me that. Yeah,
it was a little purple one. Here's the thing about that though. She's way smarter than me, and she's just a smart kid. But back then, we'd put them in bed. We'd put the kids to bed, and it'd be an hour later. And when you can't sneak and play drums and sneak out of bed, because we'd be sitting there watching TV, and me and my wife, and all of a sudden you're, I'm like, we'd look at each other. I'd be like, let her play. She'll go back to bed. And she'll be all right. Well, she'll sneak out, man. Hey, last question last thing I want to bring up is, I think this is the right website. Does Arrested Development have a website to buy swag and tour?
Yeah. adtheband.com or arresteddevelopmentmusic.com.
That's the one I was going to bring up. I want to make sure, listen, if that's the way y'all really make, the money nowadays, I want to make sure people know where they can go see you live. And I want them to buy the swag if the swag is.
Yeah, we got sweatshirts, and t-shirts and, all that stuff, and past records. Yeah, check it out. And and sign up for our newsletter, and then like every few weeks we let you know if a new video dropped or a new song dropped and where we're going to be. We need people to come to the shows.
Yeah. Well, and real quick, you and your wife have a band too, Fire and Knife, right?
Fire and the Knife. Yes.
Fire and the Knife. I'm sorry. Yeah. Fire and the Knife.
Yeah. And we're recording a new record, we're still writing. We have enough songs for a full length record, which is awesome. So we're recording it, tweaking them. And we do a lot of stuff. Like when I'm not on the road with Arrested Development, I do a lot of local shows with my wife, acoustic shows. Sometimes it's just me and her. And then sometimes it's a full electric band rocking out, drums, bass, electric guitars, and so follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
All right, man, that's cool. I want to make sure people know where they can just kind of stalk you on a professional level and give you their money. So that's what I want. You know why? We got to support. Hey, real quick, we got to support this guy. He just moved up to the minivan stage of Family Hill.
That's right.
Are you liking the minivan?
I freaking love it. I've owned one before though. I was, I was a professional I'm obviously a professional musician, but in my early days driving around Atlanta, I had a minivan. I had a little Dodge, what was it, Caravan?
That's what I had.
A 93 or 94. And I took the back seats out and just chunked them. I didn't need them because it was all gear on back there. Yeah. I loved it. So, I've never had a problem with minivans,
Okay.
So, yeah.
I saw you purchased one and I was like, man, minivans I was the guy that was never going to have a minivan, and I got one with 3 kids and 2 dogs. I was like,
we were not planning on buying one. Our car before just died, transmission gone, and it cost like way more to fix the transmission than the the car was worth. So
y'all got it worked out though?
We got it worked out. Yeah.
Good, man. Hey, listen, I probably won't talk to you much between now and the next time I get you on, but I hope you and the family have a Merry Christmas. And I got to be honest, I hope 2022 not only kicks ass for 2022, but makes up for 2021.
Yes, yes. And for your kids, let's over and out.
That's for because I take my glasses off. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, man. All right, you guys have a good one, buddy.
All right, bye.
All right, see you, man. Bye.